my version of onboarding is prioritizing. And I know that that sounds like, well, of course, super obvious, but I think when we're thinking about online students, especially just students in general, probably, but online especially, fewer clicks to me is more engagement. If they have to find everything and get onboarded and create an account and do all these different things that are really time consuming and all those kind of things, I think they're less likely to do it. I teach high school. So, once you get about 6 clicks in, they're like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Where is the thing she said would be here? So for me, it was prioritizing what it was I was going to assign, how I was going to grade, and then also prioritizing little organizational pieces like logistically naming norms, what all I was going to post at the same time, and kind of figuring out what my routines were going to look like so that I could help students be successful and say, I always do this at this time, or you can look for this at this time. So really kind of figuring out what my day-to-day was going to look like in terms of checking, posting. So again, like prioritizing, my own habits and my own behaviors. So especially that I wasn't guaranteeing something I couldn't deliver on. And that helped me weed out things I wasn't going to do. And, like great ideas, but I'm totally not going to, not sustainable, that kind of a thing. That helped me a great deal.
Onboarding is the process that prepares the student for what they're going to experience in the course. It typically happens maybe a week or more before the actual start of the course. And it kind of sets the stage for what the expectations are of the student, as well as informing the student of what they can expect from the course and the instructor.
Onboarding for students is helping them understand how to navigate the platform that they're using. Not every platform is exactly the same. Not every curriculum is exactly the same. And if the students don't know how to navigate the resources, then they will, I'm not going to say they're going to fail, but it sets them up for a situation where they may not be as successful. It may not actually show what they're capable of in whatever course they're taking, whether it's a language course or a math course or whatever it might be, but it's getting them oriented to how to navigate the course.
Onboarding is preparing the students to engage with the course, the content and the material. This is making them aware of the structure of the course, the policies of the course, how to communicate with me throughout the course, and expectations for the course.
I think a lot of the same ways that we get ready for the school year applies virtually that onboarding, the same way that we spend pre-planning, writing their names on the folders and getting the room ready and setting up the stations and doing all the things in person and with, physical tangible items. Those first impressions are just as important, if not just important in a different way or more important, I think, for virtual students, because they aren't meeting us in person. And so I think for, those introductory lessons, keeping it simple. I know we all have the pressure of like it feels like a 4-letter word now, but like Nearpod or Pear Deck, these are great sites, like great programs. But I think if we focus on simplicity and focusing on what we can do, again, like routinely, consistently, I think it makes I think it's important to make a very intentional, sustainable first impression. And that's a lot of what I'm excited about next semester. I get all new students second semester. So I have to make that positive impression really early on. And I think because we're teachers and we like trying new things, we assume, and because we know that students have kind of no, threshold for entertainment, like they just like want to be, I think we think they want to be entertained all the time, but really I have felt like some things this semester were, boring at best, like 50 Shades of Beige. And students afterwards have been like, wow, that was really fun. Like, thank you. That was really organized, well laid out. Or games that we play, I'm thinking, oh, they're going to be super sick of this game. And they're like, can we play that game again? But not because it's compelling, but also we've played it before. They know what to do. They know how this works. And so we got kind of efficient into our routines. And that was really nice because I felt like I was right for at least myself and my heart and who I am in those first impressions. I wanted to be, like I said, steady, consistent, organized. I didn't try to do a lot of breakout rooms at the beginning. And by a lot, I mean any. So I feel like if teachers also are nervous or have any kind of trepidations about Zoom and that kind of thing, and just assuming they have to make class look like they would under normal circumstances with think, pair, share and group work, I don't know that they have to. A lot of my students really appreciated just working independently and bonding with me first before each other, if that makes sense. I really focused on the teacher-student relationship, not necessarily the student-to-student relationship. And I think a lot of them appreciated that. I think it was by like the third day of school kind of cringy to have, another class with icebreakers. And it's like, they're going, can we just get to the material already? Like, I want to get to know my teacher. I want to know what the heck is going to be going on in this class. And I want to start learning Spanish, And so I think those are some surprising priorities that I found that students had, but I was excited about that too. It took the pressure off me. It was like, okay, let's just dive right into it. So that was really nice.
The onboarding process really, it eliminates a lot of the how-to questions that you get in the middle of a semester or within a few weeks of the semester. It eliminates a lot of those questions, which of course helps the instructor working smarter, not harder. It provides a way for students to get acquainted not only with the course, but also with sort of the start of building a community between the students and the educator. So it serves a lot of purposes in that sense. And doing that up front really sort of sets the stage for how the course is going to go. Similar to, the first day of class, I was told from the, get-go, lay down the law the first day and you can always loosen things up later. And so this is sort of the way of doing that, I guess, in an online course.
Important to have it already set up. My son, who's in IT, talks about when they do projects, and if they throw the project out there and then it's just like you're trying to pick up the pieces all throughout the rest of the semester. So if you already have it set up, you've already predicted what possible, and maybe not all 100% of every possible problem that you might run into, but you can kind of predict what kinds of things the students are going to run into and alleviate those problems before they happen.
If you don't have a good onboarding in place, you're going to be plagued by student emails, confusion, concern, and it really sets the students up with a bad experience initially. And even if the course is an excellent course, it takes some time kind of overcoming that initial anxiety that's provoked by lack of clarity in the beginning of the semester or course. So it's so much easier if you can anticipate the types of concerns and questions that will come up if you don't do the onboarding, and include all them in the onboarding to make it as simple and straightforward for the students to begin their coursework.
A good onboarding program, or just sort of approach, I would say, definitely defines like the main, the learning management system. For us, for our district, I just use our institutional one. And I know there are lots of other options, but I think prioritizing what sites or what, where things are going to be housed. And then also what kind of routines, is, if I say the quiz is on Friday, does that mean the quiz closes on Friday? Or does that mean it starts on Friday and I have the whole weekend? Again, like sort of being transparent to students or, colleagues or whomever, what my personal routines are. I never had a student, knock on wood, geez, Louise. I haven't had a student yet say or refer at all to like, I emailed you, did you get it? Or anything like that. I was very upfront from the beginning, like, if you email me after 2:30, which I'm pretty sure is our contract time, but it might be 3, but I said 2:30. If you email me after 2:30, I will respond to it as soon as I get it in the morning, and that's no problem. And so I never had any conflict of, did you get my email? And 7 emails later, they've emailed at like 11 p.m., 12 a.m., all that kind of thing. Because a lot of my students do their work at night or in the early morning. They're just complete night owls. And that's fine, no problem. But that accessibility piece, I think, was huge. So I definitely laid that out in some of those logistics and those routines. Here's where the quizzes and the tests live. Here's where the everyday classwork lives. And here's, when I'm going to be updating the following things. Here's what I would do each day, and go forth and conquer. So I wanted them to have like one place to check and get a lot of information, if that makes sense. So I think a successful onboarding approach or program basically lays that out. Where is everything? Where should you be going every day? What do your everyday routines look like? And what do my everyday routines look like as an instructor, so that you know what you can expect from me, and I'm not feeding that monster of what some refer to as grind culture or hustle culture, which is that we're just, keep your email on your phone and whatever. I don't want to keep email on my phone. I don't want to be accessible to anybody except for like immediate family after the hours of, 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., whatever. So for me, that was really, really important.
A really solid one, I think, has actually a lot of parts to it. It's going to have some kind of a welcome to the course, and the instructor with the course overview and the syllabus. That kind of stuff is obvious. It helps to have an introduction to the instructor that is on video as well as written, so that you're reaching multiple modes depending on the kinds of students you have and how they learn best. It's going to have obviously your syllabus and that kind of information, but even with that, I break the syllabus down. So the main content that talks about the what the course is, the grading, all of that kind of stuff may be in one spot, and all of those other pages at the end, the policy things and all of that, those are going to be separated out from the main course content, because the students are going to go back to this during the course as they need to, and making sure that they're able to find the parts that they really want is going to be important. So you're going to have the instructor stuff, you're going to have the syllabus. I always encourage people to do some sort of a concept check on the syllabus, so that that students have looked at it and the most important pieces they remember. I also include assignments within it that model what's going to happen in the course. So for example, one thing that I really encourage students to do, they have to set up their profile in the course management system. And I ask them to identify how they're going to spend however many hours I'm requiring them to spend during the week, and actually lay that out like a Monday through Sunday. Where is that going to happen? And then I have them turn it in just like they would an assignment. So in that case, a couple things happen. They've practiced turning something in, so we can troubleshoot any problems they would have with uploading a file or however they do it. And also it gives me something that I can go back to. So if a student somewhere in the middle of the course stops responding or whatever, I can go to them and say, hey, you told me on Tuesdays and Thursdays you were going to focus on my course from 5 to 7 at night. Is that still working for you? Because I see you're not turning things in, and then kind of work through it. And it helps me to know that information about them. And it also forces them to really identify in their schedule time that they're going to dedicate to my course. It's going to lay out content related to technologies that we'll be using in the course, and what specifications they might have to have in order to be able to be successful in the course. With language courses, sometimes you might have to add information about how to type in the target language, information on using online translators and other resources as references. So those kinds of those kinds of expectations can be set from the very, very beginning. A video maybe walking through the content management system or whatever kind of course shell you have, so that students know where things are located and where to look for them. It might include information on how to learn a language, or how to be an online student, those kinds of things that would help them. Information on where students get their learning support. So, that could be accommodation centers that are on campus. It can be tutoring for languages, any of those kind of support systems. And by having those as separate pages, then students are more able to go back to them when they need it, as opposed to it all being sort of in this long 12-page syllabus, which is what happens in a typical traditional class.
In the onboarding program, I think what is important, like I said before, is knowing where to click and where to find the resources. If it's it's good to have documents that are already available that they're able to be read, like a PDF file or a Google Doc or whatever it might be. But I think it's also really helpful to have video resources to go along with that, because a lot of students still really do struggle with reading and following instructions. But if they can see it and hear it and see exactly where they're supposed to be, it makes it a lot easier for them to figure out where everything is. Because the students now, they're used to the face-to-face classroom, and they have been for so long, and they're used to their teacher pointing out, okay, well, look here and put this answer there. And if they don't have that visual, a lot of the students really do struggle.
I think it's important to engage with the students through multiple channels for the onboarding process. I think it's important to have them be provided with written documentation so that they can go through and look at that if they want to print it out and have it on hand. I think it's important to have a digital type of presentation where they can go through maybe a welcome module and see things digitally. I also think it's important to reinforce it through other channels, such as an announcement or a virtual greeting, a video greeting perhaps. One of the things that I often include is I call it a quiz. It's not really a quiz, but it's a check-in with the students after they've been provided these materials that I just shared with you, so that they can then respond if they understand the critical pieces of the course, and they can go through and check their comprehension. I also take advantage of that opportunity to make sure that they have their settings in their learning management system the way I want them, such that they will receive emails when there's an announcement sent to them. I have them take a screenshot and share that with me to make sure that they've set their settings appropriately. I give them the opportunity to view tutorials of the different platforms used, and they have an opportunity to respond to questions about how those platforms are integrated into the course and to ask any follow-up questions. But the other really important piece, I think, to onboarding that I include with my students is I call it a webinar, an orientation webinar, where I meet live with the students, I record the session, and I present all this material to them yet again, and I go over it, and I give them the opportunity to ask questions with me in a very informal environment. It's not an assessment, it's just getting to know each other and, hey, let's go over the course type of webinar. Within that webinar, I share a document, which I also provide for them on the learning management system, which has been very effective, and I call it the cycle to success. And I tell them, this is, if I were a student, how I would approach this course, or how I envision a successful student approaching the course. And I break down a cycle in the course, which is typically a Monday to Sunday, but it's a cycle. And I talk about what things they should be doing in each step in that cycle at the beginning of the week, middle of the week, end of the week, and then adapt it to their own needs. But I go very specifically and explicitly with what I think they should be doing to be successful in this course. This webinar is recorded, so the students who could not attend live can attend post facto. And all students have to do a quiz after the webinar, where basically they summarize the information that was shared with them, and then they get an opportunity to ask any follow-up questions that I can then respond to. I also include in that webinar some tips and strategies about learning language in general. And I think that, and really important, I forgot to mention, is I very explicitly go over my expectations about proficiency. I find that many students have this image in their mind that their instructors are expecting native level proficiency in every activity they do. And I think it's really important to encourage them that that is not my expectation at all. Errors are part of the process. I am not looking for perfection. In fact, perfection makes my job very difficult because either one, you're cheating, or two, you're not letting me have any insight into your learning process, and thus my feedback's not very productive.
We collaborate, and our district just requires that that we post everything on the district provided LMS. So we have the old Blackboard / like D2L, but like the updated version of it or whatever. So it's eClass in some places, iCollege in some places. What else is it? It's a whole ELC in some places. It's all the same thing with a little waffle at the top, and then and so that's the only requirement really, is that we just get them, is that we have everything based off of there, and that we have the daily lesson plans, all content, all of those kind of things. In-person students for us currently, so here, now in this time in this semester, but also next semester, in-person and virtual students are not to have two different experiences has been the directive. So what's really nice is we can also send some in-person students. I mean, we do to the LMS, and it's like, do the same things that you would have done at home, but can't for whatever reason. And so that's nice because it's also consistent and the expectation. And I believe a lot of those habits and behaviors would reflect poorly on me if I weren't to post those daily lesson plans, post that weekly agenda. Like, that is a non-negotiable, which, like you said, I think is really nice to be consistent for students, so that they're not going, wow, my, geometry teacher hasn't updated anything since August, or we only have, one grade, but Spanish is really doing, she does the most. Because then you start not villainizing each other, but you undermine other people in ways that you didn't realize. I think in both of those situations, like, we don't want to be the super extra teachers, like, ugh, my Spanish teacher posts everything, but this other class doesn't, or vice versa. So we're lucky that a lot of it is, kind of told, we get the freedom to do it however we want, but also, like, the non-negotiables are very clear, which is nice. I don't like to play guessing games, and you don't feel micromanaged. It's like, tell me what I have to do, and then it gave me some freedom to do whatever I want within that.
It's really a mix of both, because there are certain policies that all instructors are required to add that are related to the university, and so you definitely want to put those somewhere, having those as part of the onboarding process, and all of the resources that you find on a campus that are campus specific, that would come from campus resources, whereas the content of my course, my grading system, rubrics I'm going to use, that kind of stuff would be more personal. So it's really a mix.
It's kind of a mix of both. There are some that are already created by our company, and those are available at document forms, short video forms, but sometimes there are things that are specific to our language or to our language resources that are on the platform that students, it gives a little more personalization for that specific course. And those are ones that I and other colleagues have created together.
It's a mix of both. So as I mentioned, I use multiple platforms within my course that are all kind of integrated into my learning management system, but I might have a tutorial about how to use the learning management system. Honestly, I don't think anyone looks at it because everyone's familiar with the learning management system by now, but it's there in case they're not sure how to access a feature in the learning management system. That's not my own content. That comes from my LMS. Then I create my own tutorials about some of the other platforms, because even though they have a tutorial maybe available, I like to tailor the content to my course, how they would find it integrated in my course, how I'm expecting them to interact on it. I work, for example, with VoiceThread as a asynchronous multimedia interactive type platform. I have a mix of their tutorials and my own for using it in the course. And likewise, I also work with a third-party provider for telecollaborative language exchanges, which is linguameeting.com. And they too have some onboarding materials that I share, but I also tailor them to my own needs and create my own tutorials or video introductions to it.